Franciscans are people and groups who adhere to the teachings and spiritual disciplines of St. Francis of Assisi. The movement originates within the Catholic Church, where it also remains most numerous. However, Franciscan orders and Franciscan spirituality are also found within other Christian denominations, including Old Catholicism, Anglicanism, and Lutheranism. The coat of arms that is a universal symbol of Franciscans contains the Tau cross with two crossed arms, Christ's right hand with the nail wound and Francis's left hand with the stigmata wound. History. Founding. A sermon which Francis heard in 1209 on Mount 10–9 made such an impression on him that he decided to devote himself wholly to a life of apostolic poverty. Clad in a rough garment, barefoot, and, after the evangelical precept, without staff or scrip, he began to preach repentance. He was soon joined by a prominent fellow townsman, Bernard of Quintaval, who contributed all that he had to the work, and by other companions, who were said to have reached the number of 11 within a year. The brothers lived in the deserted leper colony of Rivotorto near Assisi, but they spent much of their time traveling through the mountainous districts of Umbria, always cheerful and full of songs, yet making a deep impression on the hearers by their earnest exhortations. The life was extremely ascetic, though such practices were apparently not prescribed by the first rule which Francis gave them, which seems to have been nothing more than a collection of scriptural passages emphasizing the duty of poverty. Reforms and branches. The regulations of Pope Leo X brought a notable increase of strength to the observantist branch, and many conventual houses joined them. In France all but 48, in Germany the greater part, in Spain practically all. But this very growth was fatal to the internal unity and strength of the strict party. The need for new reforms soon became apparent, and the action of Leo X, far from consolidating the order, gave rise to a number of new branches. The most important of these are the Capuchins, founded in 1525 by Matteo Bassi and established in 1619 by Paul V as a separate order; the Descalced Franciscans, founded as a specially strict observantist congregation at Belalcazar in Spain by Juan de Puebla toward the end of the 15th century, compelled by Leo X to unite with the regular observantists, but soon afterward re-established as an independent branch by Juan de Guadalupe, and subsequently obtaining some importance in Spain and Portugal. The Alcantarines, a very strict congregation founded in 1540 by Peter of Alcantara, and distinguished by remarkable achievements in the mission field. The Italian Reformati, founded about 1525 near Rieti by two Spanish observantists, and becoming comparatively widespread from the beginning of the 17th century through the favor of Pope Clement VIII and Pope Urban VIII. The French Recollects, originating in Cluis in 1570 and more successfully at Rebasons in 1583, formed into a distinct congregation by Clement VIII in 1602, and important in later missionary history, especially in Canada. The German-Belgian Recollects are formed in the 17th century, as the observant provinces in Germany and Belgium accepted stricter statutes and took the name Recollects during and after the 30 Years' War. The Franciscans also rendered important services to the cause of the Counter-Reformation in the 16th and 17th centuries, rivaling the Jesuit order in zeal, and frequently suffering martyrdom for the faith in England, the Netherlands, and Germany. During the 19th century the possessions of the order have been much reduced by the storms of the French Revolution, the German secularization since 1803, and the political changes of Spain, Italy, and France. On the other hand, there has been a considerable extension in many parts of the order. List of Catholic orders and organizations. There are three main orders of Catholic Franciscans, with the subdivisions. There are also several affiliated organizations. First orders. The First Order of the Order of Friars Minor, commonly called simply the Franciscans. This order is a mendicant religious order of men, some of whom trace their origin to Francis of Assisi. Their official Latin name is the Ordo Fratrum Minorum. St. Francis thus referred to his followers as fraticelli, meaning little brothers. Franciscan brothers are informally called Friars of the Minorates. The modern organization of the Friars Minor comprises 3 separate family groups, each considered a religious order in its own right under its own minister general and with particular type of governance. They all live according to a body of regulations known as the Rule of St. Francis. These are the Order of Friars Minor, also known as the Observants, most commonly simply called the Franciscan Friars ABBR-OM. The Order of Friars Minor Capuchin are simply the Capuchins ABBR-OM. Cap. The Order of Friars Minor Conventual, also called the Conventuals, are Minorates ABBR-OM. CONV. Second Order. The Second Order, the Order of St. Clare, most commonly called the Poor Clares in English-speaking countries, ABBR-OSC, consists of religious sisters. Prior to 1263, this order was referred to as the Poor Ladies, the Poor Enclosed Nuns, and the Order of San Damiano. Third Order is the Franciscan Third Order, known as the Third Order of St. Francis, has many men and women members, separated into 2 main branches. The secular Franciscan Order, originally known as the Brothers and Sisters of Penance, or the Third Order of Penance, ABBR-OFS, whose members try to live the ideals of the movement in their daily lives outside of religious institutes. The Third Order Regular, ABBR-TOR, whose members live in religious communities under the traditional religious vows. They grew out of the secular Franciscan Order. Demographics. The 2013 Annuario Pontificio gave the following figures for the membership of the principal male Franciscan orders. Order of Friars Minor, 2,212 communities, 14,123 members, 9,735 priests. Franciscan Order of Friars Minor Conventual, 667 communities, 4,289 members, 2,921 priests. Franciscan Order of Friars Minor Capuchin, 1,633 communities, 10,786 members, 7,057 priests. Third Order Regular of St. Francis, 176 communities, 870 members, 576 priests. Order of Friars Minor, 1,500 houses, comprised in about 100 provinces and custody, with about 16,000 members. In 1897, distinctions between the Observants, Descalces, Recollects and Reformati were dissolved by Pope Leo XIII, and they were joined under general constitutions. The Capuchins and Conventuals wanted the reunited Observants to be referred to as the Order of Friars Minor of the Leonine Union. Instead they were called simply the Order of Friars Minor. Despite the tensions caused by this forced union, the order grew from 1897 to reach a peak of 26,000 members in the 1960s before declining from the 1970s onwards. The order is headed by a Minister General, who since 2003 had been Father José Rodriguez Carballo. However, on Saturday, the 6th of April 2013, Pope Francis, in his first appointment to a senior post in the Roman Curia, appointed Father Carballo as titular Archbishop of Belcastro and Secretary, or Deputy Director, of the Congregation for Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life, the department that oversees all Catholic male and female religious orders and related groups. With this appointment, a new Minister General will need to be selected by the Franciscans and then approved by Pope Francis. Br. Michael Anthony Perry was elected as Minister General on May 2013, succeeded Br. José Rodriguez Carballo. Order of Friars Minor Capuchin. The Order of Friars Minor Capuchin of the youngest branch of Franciscans, going back to 1525, when some friars minor in the Marches wanted to live a stricter life of prayer and poverty to be close to the original intentions of St. Francis. Thanks to the support of the papal court, the new branch received early recognition and grew fast, first in Italy and since 1574 all over Europe. The name Capuchins refers to the peculiar shape of the long hood, originally a popular nickname. It has become a part of the official name of the order, which now exists in 106 countries all over the world, with around 10,500 brothers living in more than 1,700 communities. Order of Friars Minor Conventual. The Conventual Franciscans consists of 290 houses worldwide, with almost 5,000 friars in the world. They have experienced growth in this century throughout the world. They are located in Italy, the United States, Canada, Australia, and throughout South Central America and Africa. They are the largest of number in Poland because of the work and inspiration of St. Maximilian Kolbe. Secular Franciscan Order. The Secular Franciscan Order, known as the Third Order Secular of St. Francis prior to 1978, is an order founded by St. Francis in 1212 for brothers and sisters who do not live in a religious community. Members of the order continue to live secular lives, however they do gather regularly for fraternal activities. In the United States alone there are 17,000 professed members of the order. Regular tertiaries. The Third Order Regular of the Brothers of the Poor of St. Francis of Assisi, CFP, are an active community based in the United States with houses in Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany and Brazil. These Franciscans are challenged to live an integrated life through prayer, community, and the ministry to serve the poor, neglected and disadvantaged youth, the powerless, people in need, and the elderly. The Brothers of the Poor live by the vows of poverty, consecrated chastity, and obedience. The Brothers of the Poor also serve persons with AIDS and people who ask for help regardless of the religion of the social economic background. They are teachers, child care workers, social workers, counselors, pastoral ministers, retreat ministers, religious educators, school administrators, and much more. The regular tertiaries, officially the Third Order Regular of St. Francis of Penance, who operate the Franciscan University of Steubenville, follow a rule approved by Pope Leo X. They form less than a score of houses, 2 in Rome, 5 in Sicily, 7 in Austria, and 2 in the United States. These numbers stand in contrast to the strength of the Third Order Regular at the end of the Middle Ages, when it had over 8,000 houses, or in the middle of the 17th century when there were about 70,000 members, divided into 150 provinces. The noteworthy proportional decline of the Third Order Regular in comparison to the First Order shows that the latter presents more attraction in the modern day, as it remains truest to its original principles. Brothers and Sisters of Penance of St. Francis. The Brothers and Sisters of Penance of St. Francis is a private confraternity of the Roman Catholic Church whose members strive to model their lives according to the rule and statutes of the primitive rule of the Third Order of St. Francis, which was written for lay people in 1221 by St. Francis of Assisi. Right now there are more than several hundred members within the United States, and a few hundred more throughout the world. The order was originally started in 1996 by members of the Archdiocese of St. Paul in Minnesota, Minims. In 1435, St. Francis of Paola founded the Poor Hermits of St. Francis of Assisi, later known as the Hermits of the Order of Minims, and then renamed the Order of Minims in 1506 by Pope Julius II. There are mendicant friars, contemplative nuns, and lay tertiaries. Society of the Atonement. The Society of the Atonement, also known as Greymoor Friars and Greymoor Sisters, started in 1898 as a religious community in the Episcopal Church, and came into union with the Holy See in 1909. Franciscan Friars of the Immaculate. The Franciscan Friars of the Immaculate started in 1970, and became an institute with pontifical right in 1998. In that same year, the Franciscan Sisters of the Immaculate also became an institute with pontifical right. There are also Third Order Franciscan Sisters of the Immaculate, an offshoot of the Franciscan Tertiaries of the Immaculate. Franciscan Friars of the Renewal. The community of the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal started in 1987, and the Franciscan Sisters of the Renewal in 1988. Franciscan Missionaries of the Eternal Word. The Franciscan Missionaries of the Eternal Word started in 1987, and are now a public clerical association of the faithful. Franciscans International. Franciscans International is a non-governmental organization with general consultative status at the United Nations, uniting the voices of Franciscan brothers and sisters from around the world. It operates under the sponsorship of the Conference of the Franciscan Family and serve all Franciscans and the global community by bringing grassroots Franciscans to the United Nations forums in New York and Geneva. It brings the spiritual and ethical values of the Franciscans to the United Nations and international organizations. Other Christian traditions. One of the results of the Oxford movement in the Anglican Church during the 19th century was the re-establishment of religious orders, including some of Franciscan inspiration. The principal Anglican communities in the Franciscan tradition of the Community of St. Francis, the Poor Clares of Reparation, the Society of St. Francis, and the Community of St. Clare. There is also a third order known as the Third Order Society of St. Francis. A U.S. founded order within the Anglican World Communion is the Seattle Founded Order of St. Francis, an open, inclusive, and contemporary expression of an Anglican First Order of Friars. There is also an Order of Clares in Seattle, the Little Sisters of St. Clare, where the OSF is officially headquartered. There are also some small Franciscan communities within European Protestantism and the Old Catholic Church. There are some Franciscan orders in Lutheran churches, including the Order of Lutheran Franciscans, the Evangelical Sisterhood of Mary, and the Evangelischen an Franziskus Bruderschaft. In addition, there are associations of Franciscan inspiration not connected with the mainstream Christian tradition and describing themselves as ecumenical or dispersed.